Okay, so we've got quite a few people on the session, so I think generally if we can leave questions till the end of the session, but of course if you're not understanding something I'm saying, please do stop me and get me to reiterate so we can make sure that we're all on the same page. So the Soonr service is comprised of three primary components. We have the Soonr desktop agent, which we install on our Mac or PC. Sorry, I believe you guys actually specifically asked to run on PC. I've just realized that. I'll see if I can get switched over. The Soonr, I'll run through the Soonr Online desktop first and then switch over to my PC. Hopefully you guys can actually see it on PC. It should be a little bit better. Sorry, to step back there, we have the Soonr desktop agent for Mac and for PC. That's just going to keep all your files in sync on your Mac or your PC. So the way this is going to function is going to be very similar on Mac and on PC. Is you'll have a Soonr Workplace folder, and it's going to work exactly the same as it does on Google Drive or on pretty much any cloud service. You have your folder structure, you drag and drop something in. It's going to just automatically, well, we've already actually got it in there. Let's try another one. It's automatically going to start to upload. You can see that by my little green flashing Soonr icon up in the top right here. Obviously, this will be down at the bottom right on your Windows in the system tray. And I don't know if you noticed, but I had a little orange icon showing me that it was currently syncing. Now it's showing me a green one that's in sync. And this is what people are going to see on a day-to-day basis. The majority of users, they're not really going to see much more than this. They're going to come into the Soonr Workplace folder, double-click on what it is that they're wanting to work on, work away on it, save it. It's going to automatically sync back to the cloud. In turn, that's going to sync to all your other devices, and then that's going to also sync across to anybody that you shared this with. So that's the basic synopsis of the Soonr desktop agents. We do have a couple of preferences behind that, so we can make some amendments. So what I'll do is I will come back to that. I'll try and switch on to my PC just so you guys can see it running on the PC. I know the majority of people be using PC. We have the Soonr Workplace Online, which is what we'll have a look at next. We'll spend most of the session having a look at the Soonr Workplace Online. That's really where all the core functionality is, and especially all the administrative tools are all held within the Soonr Workplace Online. And then thirdly, we have the Soonr mobile app. That is available for iOS and for Android. We do have builds available for Windows and BlackBerry, but they're not currently under development, so they're not as feature-rich as the iOS and the Android versions, but they are available, and you can access all your files and do a variety of stuff. We'll see how we get on for time and how much I might be able to show you on the mobile app, but realistically, you should really get your hands dirty on that one, have a play and see how that operates. I find with the mobile devices, it's really much better just to get a hands-on than to try and demonstrate it via online where you can't see where I'm touching and what I'm doing. So those are the three key components. I'm going to kick off going on to Soonr Workplace Online. So what's going to happen when you're in a team and you get started off and you're the administrator of the team, you're going to get an email with an invitation, and then that's going to bring you on to when you activate your account, it's going to ask you to set up a password, and then it's going to download your Soonr desktop agent and ask you to install that, and then you'll be left on the Soonr Online page. From there are two ways really of how to move forward and to get started. One is to either get all your data into the Soonr service. Alternatively, we can start by creating our team, so adding in the users that will be using the service. It doesn't really matter too much which order you're doing it in. It's also a little bit scenario-based, so if you've got a lot of data, especially if it's going to be a sort of file server environment, that sort of hybrid environment, as some touched on, it would probably be better to get all your data up into the service first, then get your team up and running and share it out with your team. But that'll make sense as you start using the service as to what works best in what scenarios, but it really doesn't make too much of a difference. For the purpose of this demonstration, just that you understand some of the concepts, once I go across to the projects tab and we start looking at the data via Soonr Online service, I'm going to start with the team tab and just have a look at the different member types. So we can come onto the team tab and click on add a member. We give them a first name and last name and so on. And then we need to allocate them storage quota. So the way that it works with Soonr is that each user gets allocated storage, and then it's their responsibility to take care of that storage. So when you, out of that storage, when you create projects, just to define that term, projects are just root level folders within the Soonr workplace. Folders within it, we call folders. Files within it, we call files. But just these root level folders we refer to as projects. I'm going to say that quite a few times just so that you know what I'm talking about. So when we create a member and we allocate them storage, when they start creating projects, anything that gets added to that project comes out of that user storage quota. So for instance, if I was to have a project and you put a 1 GB file in, that comes out of my storage quota. This is quite useful from an admin perspective because you give the marketing manager their 100 GB and you don't need to go to them on a monthly basis saying, guys, you've got 20 copies of the same PowerPoint presentation again and you're clogging up the server, please clean it up. It really becomes sort of their responsibility. As an admin, you can go and you can have a look on the files and clean it up yourself, but it does tend to become a bit more of a self-managing system with regards to the quota and the storage. And then down below, we have a few options. So we can specify per user if they can back up or not. We'll have a look at that when we come back onto the desktop agent a bit later. So in addition to our primary service of being a file sharing, syncing, collaboration service, we also allow for users to back up files on their machine. So generally speaking, you're going to be wanting, if you're not wanting to collaborate, so your emails or your personal photos or things you're just wanting to back up in case your machine fails or gets stolen, we can do that as well. Below that, we have the options to, if the member is a super administrator, with an administrator, and whether they can create connections. So the super administrator role is only available for enterprise teams. So you have a pro team and an enterprise team are the two service types available. And as we go through, I'll show you what is enterprise only. The first thing is the super admin role. And all that does is it gives them access to the Manage Projects tab. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Administrators, it'll vary a little bit depending on if you're in pro or enterprise team, but at very least, an administrator will be able to create new members. And then we can specify whether they can create connections. So we've got a standard member, we've got a super administrator, and we've got an administrator. We have a fourth user type, which is called a connection, and they're under this connections tab. Now, a connection is almost precisely the same as a team member, but with two distinct differences. Firstly, by the user license agreement, they may not work for the company subscribing to the Soonr service. So it's really designed for contractors or for a chartered accountant that does your books or a lawyer that handles your legal matters, somebody you work very closely with, you're wanting to collaborate with, you're wanting them to have the full benefits of the Soonr service. They can install the desktop agent, they can install the mobile app, they can do everything somebody in the team can do, but they don't work directly for you. The second difference is that they cannot be allocated storage space. Because they cannot be allocated storage space, they cannot own projects and they cannot back up. So they can only participate in existing projects that are being shared with them. I'm going to pop back onto the Members tab and just show you one or two more things in here. So we looked at how we can just easily add a member in here. We can just as easily come back, select a member, and then come on to edit, and then we can change their storage quota, change their email address, make them an admin, change their password, convert them into a connection, do a variety of edits to their accounts in there. Another nice little option to be aware of here is this little gear icon. If we click on that, it'll firstly give us a nice little overview of this team, how much storage they're using, how many of their member and connection seats they're using. And we can also come on to manage quotas. This is a different way of changing the quota, and we can simply slide these around to say who needs what storage quota. So that's how we get our members and our connections in. On an enterprise team, you additionally have the ability to come into configuration and enable the Active Directory integration. And what that's going to do is you're going to define your LDAP path, and that's just going to pull across the users and groups defined by that search path and bring those across into Soonr. And then all of the user detail will be controlled by Active Directory rather than via that member tab that we were just looking at. It'll also work in a single sign-on capacity, whereby they'll use their Active Directory credentials to log into Soonr. And you can also control their access in that way. So if you lock down the AD account, they won't be able to access Soonr and all the data held within there either. So nice little integration there. Quite a, well, semi-complex. If you know AD, it's actually really pretty straightforward, but it is one of those things that you really should follow the instructions quite closely. If you have a look on our support site and just do a search in there for Active Directory, you'll find the guide there. Just make sure the requirements and the installation process are very carefully adhered to. So that's how we get our team members in. Coming back into the Team tab, we also have the groups, so that just helps us with administration. So rather than when we're wanting to share with a bunch of people, we don't have to share individually, we can just share with groups and so on. I'm certain it'll be a pretty familiar concept to most, if not all of you. So now we have all of our team members in place. Let's move on to the Projects tab and have a look at that. So this is where we'll see all of the projects that exist within the Soonr service that are available to me. So they either are owned by me or they've been shared by me. So when a project is created, by default, only you as the owner will be able to see that project. To allow other people to see it, work on it, whatever, we need to explicitly share it. And the way that we do that is we simply come into the project and we say share, and we say I want to share this out with Amy. Select Amy, select the permissions we want to grant her, so either full access, create and modify, in other words, can't delete, modify, can't create, can't delete, or read only. And then we also have the option for public links and for reshare. We'll come on to public links in a little while. The reshare will allow Amy to come back into the shares herself and share this on with other people. But she will only be able to share at the highest level of permissions we've granted her. So if I've only given her modify, she will only be able to share onwards with modify or read only. She won't be able to share with full access. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody still with me?
Yeah, that's fine.
You all on mute, so I'm just going to take it as a yes. So just a couple of notes on the way that the sharing works. So I'll just come back on here, and I'm also just going to pull up on our support site our share documents, so share with my team members. And in here we have this little blue section which is explaining what I'm about to go through. So it's just a bit of an importance to understand how the sharing functions and how the permissions function. And it's a good thing to bear in mind before you start putting in the folder structure so that you understand how it works, just to minimize the administration on an ongoing basis. So the first thing to be aware of is that the permissions are inherited. So if I give you access to marketing, you're going to have access to absolutely everything within the marketing folder. The permissions can only be granted, they can't be restricted. So what I mean by that is I can't give you access to marketing, but then restrict you from seeing this one folder within marketing. However, I can give you access just to this one folder, but not at a higher level. So if I gave you access just to surveys, you would be able to see the marketing project, but within that you would only see surveys. We can also give a higher level of permissions as we go down the tree, but we can't reduce permissions. So for instance, I could give you read-only access to the marketing project, but I could give you full access to surveys. I could not give you full access to marketing, but then read only to surveys. Okay, so I hope that made sense to everybody. Just if you're not following that, have a little look through that article, and if you want any clarification, let's do that at the end of the session. But as I said, just to bear that in mind when you're setting up the projects, just to minimize administration for yourselves, and obviously to pass that on to the people you're working with so they understand that the concept is quite an important one. So I'm going to come back on Soonr Online and back onto my Projects tab. So here we can see, as I said, all the projects. Just a couple of things to point out here. We can create a new project. Alternatively, we can just simply create a folder within the Soonr Workplace folder on our Mac or PC, and that'll automatically be converted to a project, as it were. We have our view menu from here. So we've got a couple of different views. Those all make sense if you just spend a minute looking through them. The two I want to really go through here are the deleted projects and the archived projects. So deleted projects is going to show all projects that have been deleted within the last 6 months. With Soonr, there's a 6-month data retention policy. Anything that's deleted is retained for 6 months and available for restore. And we can simply either undelete or we can restore. So undelete is going to bring it back into its original location. Restore is going to give us options as to what to do, to download it to one of our devices, either to our default download location or to a location of our choosing. So the purpose of that would be if you, let's say you had a bunch of big video files in this that you wanted to get back, but you didn't want to restore it because, or undelete it as it were, because then it's going to sync to everybody's devices potentially, but you don't want that. So that's why we have that option. Archive projects, actually, sorry, let me just, before I go on to that, with deleted projects or deleted files, those, once you delete them, it will free up that storage allocation, that storage quota. So it comes out of Soonr's quota, if you will. So if you've got 10 gigabytes quota, you delete a project that's 2 gigabytes, that'll free up that 2 gigabytes for you. If you then undelete it within the 6 months, obviously it'll take that quota back out. But just to be aware that we don't keep that quota when it's deleted. Archive projects are a little different. They remain there permanently until you delete them, but they're hidden from view, so they won't show up on your devices, on your mobile devices, on your desktop agents. They're really for when you're finished with the project, but you need to keep it for auditing purposes or something like that. So you just want to remove it from the main view and from the day-to-day working, make sure it's not syncing, but still be available should you need it. These continue to take your storage quota, and they continue to be available until you delete them. So go back onto my active projects. You'll see that I've got an action button on all of these. I can click on that to get several options. Similarly, I can click on the little checkbox here to get the same options, but I can select multiples on this side. Obviously, my options reduce, but I can do several, do batch actions in that way. Once I come into a project, the view is going to change slightly, and this top section is going to be in reference to what we currently are viewing, and the bottom section is going to show me the contents. So at the moment, I'm looking at the Rinsler project. If we go into activity reports, you'll see this will now change to show me activity reports and the contents below. I select this report, showing me the report, contents below, and then I can click on the file to see the contents of the file. And that'll preview pretty much any file you can imagine. There's a couple of limitations, not every single file, but the vast majority of commonly used files you'll be able to preview directly via Soonr Online, as well as the Soonr mobile app. So looking through the top here, the first thing to note is it's going to tell us if the project is completely stored and if it's synced to all of my devices. You can see it's completely stored in the cloud, but it's not synced with all of my devices just yet. Next, I have the ability to add a folder or a Microsoft Office document. We also have the ability to do online editing. So I can go edit online. For both these, adding a new document or the edit online option, with the Microsoft Office files, we have the ability to integrate with Microsoft 365 or OneDrive and Google Docs. And then we can open the document. What that's going to do is it's going to transfer it out of the Soonr Workplace into Google or Microsoft's online application. And then what it'll do is it'll bring up this little box down here. So because we're transferring it out of the Soonr environment, we're not aware that you're doing saves on this site. So if you're familiar with these services, they save constantly. Every time you make a change, it saves automatically. But this doesn't automatically save back to Soonr. So you do need to come back in here and click on Save once you've finished editing. Just to note that it does cache the file for 30 minutes. So if you accidentally close down that window, you have 30 minutes to come back, click Open Editor, and and continue with your edits. If you go past that 30 minutes time lapse, or if you close down your web browser window without realizing it, you are going to lose all the changes you made. So, but important to be aware of that. Click on Stop Editing and discard the changes. Come back on there. So that's add. Next we have favorite. So that's just going to mark something as favorite and make it easily visible via our dashboard, both via Soonr Online as well as on the mobile app. Copy, upload, download, delete, all pretty self-explanatory. With the upload piece, you don't necessarily need to, I'll just take a random screenshot. I can just simply drag and drop to upload as well. I don't need to use the upload button. One thing to note is if you're in the actual location you're wanting to upload to and drag and drop, it'll just upload it to there. If you're in any other location and you drag and drop, what it'll do is it'll bring up this little window asking you where you want to bring it to. So you don't have to be in the correct location. You can just simply drag and drop and then navigate to where you want it. More is going to give us pretty much the same options as all these other options here. So we won't look at that. We had a look at shares already. Next, I want to have a look at public link. So we spoke about our different member types as well as our connections on our work. But there are going to be times when you're going to want to potentially share this on a broader basis. You might want to share this with hundreds or thousands or millions of people. And we can do that via a public link. So once we click on the Allow Public Access to this project, and we can do this for a file or folder, so I'll go onto this image and do it for this instead. It's going to be pretty much exactly the same, well, almost the same. And we can allow public access there. I'll actually just go one step back just because there is one or two more options with a folder. When I click on that, I'll get a public link and I'll get a QR code. I can simply just click on the public link to copy it to my clipboard and then stick that into an email or Skype message or whatever it might be. I can also click on Send Link and just send it directly from within Soonr. Stats are just going to show me a bit of information, which IP addresses was connected, so which IP addresses have accessed it and who's enabled it and disabled it and amended it. Access map showing me where it was accessed from. We can select whether it's a standard link, and what that's going to do is if we have standard link, it's going to show a very similar, I'll actually just bring it up for you in an alternative web browser. So that's what you'll see accessing the public link. You're missing all of the tabs and the account information and so on, but it'll have your company color scheme and your company logo. We'll have a look at how to change that in a little while. But that's really nice that you can have your third parties seeing your company branding on this page and accessing the document. Alternatively, we can do a direct link, which is going to be more sort of an FTP style. It'll just download the file automatically. We can specify whether they can download the files or not. So you can see we've got the download button over there. And whether, if they can, whether they can download the original or just a PDF version. We can specify whether they can upload. This is really useful if you have, let's say you have a cleaning company that comes in and they invoice you on a monthly basis. You can just ask them just to email it to this and it'll go straight into the project or folder that you want to, rather than they email it and then you need to put it into the right place. So that's pretty handy. We can password protect the link, generate a password if we want. We can set expiration date or duration, so we can set it for 1 month, or we can set a very specific date and time. This is quite useful. This already came from a request from a educational institution that was saying, you know, we've got the papers need to be in at midday on the 29th of February, and not this is 29th, but you get the point anyway. So that's quite nice to be able to specify exactly when something locks down, and we can also auto expire after 7 accesses. So those are the options around the public links, and that just allows us to share on a broader basis. The only other one I'm going to cover up yet, I'm not going to really be able to cover everything in great amounts of detail, but the comments is another thing that I personally find quite useful. We find it's very underutilized, but I absolutely love it. So what tends to happen historically in the workplace is somebody sends out an email, here's next week's presentation. Before you know it, you've got 20 copies of the same file, and so on and so forth. So the whole concept of cloud computing gets rid of those multiple files, but you still find there's a lot of communication around the file that gets lost in email threads buried in an archive. With comments, we can say, please add the presentation in here, and then you can see I can notify certain members that we're sharing this project with, and they'll receive an email and or a text message with your message as well as a link directly to the file. Additionally, that message will be pasted into this comments and always be available on the history of the project folder or file. So you'll have a nice little sort of audit trail of exactly what's happened with this. Personally, I find this a very useful feature. So that's the top section. That's going to be pretty much the same as we navigate through for each folder and file. Below that, we got the filter, pretty straightforward there. Show deleted is going to be similar to our deleted view of the project. So once you're in a project, it's a little different. You click on show deleted, and then you get to see all your deleted files and folders. Exactly the same process, undelete or restore. Over here, we have the team link. In this case, because we've made a public link, they're actually precisely the same. If the public link wasn't enabled, then obviously people wouldn't be able to access it, although the link would still be the same. So it's just the permissions as to who can access that link. That's quite useful. Again, you can just click on it to copy it to the clipboard and then send it over to Skype. So that's quite useful rather than going to your colleague and say, go into project X, then folder A, then folder C, then onto this, and then onto that, then find the file called whatever. You can just send them a link. That'll take them directly to where they need to be. The last thing to point out here is the versioning. So you can see we've got 3 versions, 5 versions. So with documents that can have versions, you will be able to do this. Obviously, you wouldn't have with JPEGs and so on. We can go to manage previous versions, and we can see the last 6 months worth of versioning. The way that the versioning works is it's a cascading or collapsing system, if you will. So for the last hour, every version is saved. For the last day, the last version from every hour is saved. For the last week, the last version from every day is saved. For the last month, the last version from every week is saved. And then for the last 6 months, the last version from every month. So it's not absolutely every version, but it generally works quite well to give you, be able to go back should you need to. So that is it for the Projects tab. Next, I'm going to jump onto, I'll just quickly jump onto Dashboard. So you can see here we've got those favorites that we marked as favorites on our Projects tab. We've got files and folders that are recently changed, files that we've locked, files that are linked publicly, information about my account, information about my devices, information about my project, and information about my team. So it's basically a summary of all of the rest of the stuff. I should probably actually just mention a little bit on the file locking. So on the Windows platform for Microsoft Office files, there's an auto locking feature. When you open a file, it locks. Or sorry, when you start editing a file, it locks. When you close a file down, it automatically unlocks. For all other file types on Windows and for all file types on Mac, you would need to manually lock it by doing a right click and saying lock for me. Also worth just noting, you've got a couple of other Soonr options here. So you can say open Soonr, so it'll open Soonr Online to the file or folder you're on. You can add comments, you can create public links and copy team links directly from this menu. So I can say lock for me, and that's going to, what will happen in that scenario is that that's going to lock down the file. If then, let's say for instance, a sum tries to open the same file, he'll be able to open it up and it'll say, you've got this open in read-only mode, Michael has it open for editing. At that point, the sum can actually still go on and continue editing the documents and even save the documents. So that's one scenario. Another scenario, which is the same sort of end result, but just to give you sort of that scenario, because it's quite a common sort of thing to happen, is I'm on a flight to San Francisco. Some starts editing the same document that I'm working on while I'm on the flight, and I land in San Francisco, get an internet connection. The server goes, oh, hold on, there's a mismatch here. The timestamps and so on aren't matching up as I would expect to. What it's going to do in any of these scenarios where there's what we call a defect internally, where the files aren't matching up as they're supposed to, is that it'll create a duplicate file which it'll append with the name of the user that did the secondary edit. So you'll never lose data. Worst case scenario, you might just need to amalgamate a document or two into one. Next, I'm going to go across to devices. Devices is going to show all of the devices associated with my account. This is a demo account, so we have a ridiculous amount of devices associated with. Generally, you're going to see 2, 3, 4. Your mobile devices don't show a great deal of information. The desktops show quite a bit more, so we can see which projects are synced. We can see our backup status and so on. We can also do things like, for instance, remote access. So you can remotely access the machine that the agent is installed on, given that it's connected to the internet, switched on, agent on, all of that sort of thing. And you can navigate the entire folder structure should you need to. So that's a nice little feature. Probably the most notable thing worth mentioning in here is the ability to remotely wipe a machine. So we can go on to disable lost device, tick the wipe on connect. As soon as this device connects to the Soonr service again, it'll wipe all the Soonr held data off the device. For this to function, or for this to be available, you need to be running the 4.4 agent on your Mac or PC, and for the mobile devices, you need to be running Soonr Go, which is our new mobile app, which is not released just yet. Probably the next week or two, I think we will be releasing that. So you can remotely wipe your own devices. That's probably the real key feature in here from a selling perspective at very least, and from a security perspective, extremely useful. So I'm going to jump back onto the Team tab again. So on the Team tab, we looked at the first 3, and everything that we've looked at so far is available to everybody, regardless whether you're on a Pro plan, Enterprise plan, Admin, Member, Connection. Well, sorry, with the exception of the ability to add members. Everything else that we've looked at so far is available across the board. Enterprise administrators will see managed devices. Enterprise super administrators will additionally see managed projects. So managed devices is going to allow you to see all the devices within your team, as well as do a remote wipe on all the devices in your team. Another feature available there is that if we have the policy, which we'll have a look at shortly, switched on to that approval is required to connect a device to the service, then you will have a pending devices. Actually, I think it is actually switched on, and it'll show any devices pending approval, and you can approve or reject. You'll additionally receive, the administrators will additionally receive an email, and they can just click on approve in the email, saving them having to come in here. Super admins, and this is the only difference between an admin and a super admin, is that they will be able to go onto the Manage Projects tab. It will request your password just to make sure, and this will allow you to see absolutely every project, every file, every folder on the entire service. So just to be aware that this shouldn't be made available to anybody. You can see the CEO's files and all of that sort of a thing. So just to be very wary as to who you give super admin access to. Next, I'm going to jump onto configuration. Configuration will only be available to administrators. The Pro team will only see company branding and subscription, which is not showing up here because of the way this account is set up as a demo account. Enterprise administrators will additionally see Active Directory and policies. So with company branding, we can simply click on the logo, put in our own company logo, select our own company color scheme. We've got hex codes in there, so you can do any color you like and customize it, make it yours. We had a brief look at Active Directory. Policies is probably one of the more interesting things. As I said, enterprise admin only. Password policies, so the usual sort of suspects there, minimum length, maximum length, must contain X, and so on. Can't use the last so many passwords. If you're using the Active Directory integration, that will take precedence over your password policies here. We can also enable two-factor authentication. That will use either, you can select between SMS, text message, or Google Authenticator. We recommend Google Authenticator just because you don't require a connection for it. So if you're on a flight or where you have internet but not cell phone reception, or if you're somewhere where you get bad reception and it might be delayed, in which time it's going to time out before you get to use it. So anyway, we suggest using Google Authenticator. You can manage and specify who needs to use it or not. And you can also set a whitelist so people don't need to do 2FA in the office, for instance. Session policies, nothing too exciting in there other than the IP address whitelist. That one's quite useful. The session timeout and so on, all pretty self-explanatory. Oh, sorry, I seem to have... Victor, yes, indeed. I will rush through as best I can here. Let me get on to the more interesting stuff. General policies are all pretty self-explanatory. We can restrict public links, disable remote access. Our online editing, we can specify which are allowed and whether they can configure it themselves and so on. Our device policies is where we can specify whether the devices require approval, and we can specify which groups are exempt and which groups require. And then the mobile device policies, we've got a bunch of stuff in here, disable exporting, editing, and so on. Enforced authentication, either a password or a passcode, so 4-digit passcode or their full Soonr password, timeout, wipe after X amount of failed attempts, whether they can sync to their local device or not, and account validation. This one's really cool. What you can do is you can say after 3 days of being offline, you can no longer access the data without connecting back to the service. Stops me from stealing the phone, putting it into airplane mode, and being able to access the information for as long as I want. Last thing to touch on here is the reports. Again, enterprise admin only. We've got special, which is a couple of predefined reports, but the more useful thing in my mind is all the others where you kind of build your own report. So I can go, and it's all done with filters. So we can say, show me all files that have been deleted by the user called Jeff, and you'll see my filters are building up here within the last month. And that'll just take a minute, prepare my report, and from there I can export either as a Excel or a PDF. Yeah, so nothing just yet. Try that again. There we go. And that is it for Soonr Online. So I think we need to get on to questions at this point, just so that I'm happy to run over a bit if needs be, but obviously we'll be getting close towards when we're meant to end this, and I'm sure some of you may have other engagements. So any questions that I can answer?
Michael, I have a question that I got asked the other day, and just to let everyone know as well. It was a company that had a number of users, and they're in an architect's firm, and they're using AutoCAD, and they want to distribute files between a number of different countries, between different users. The main file type that they'll be using is .dwg, which is AutoCAD file type. And just to let everyone know here, in relation to version control, the particular types of files that can actually be enabled for version control, i.e. Word, Excel, and what cannot be achieved, like you were saying, the .jpeg. So in relation to AutoCAD, that would be an example probably that does come up from time to time.
Yeah. I did actually get that question late yesterday evening, but I haven't been able to verify that it does function as I would expect. What I'll do is I'll email on a sum, and then if you can pass on the information to all the rest of the attendees, is that okay? You still with us, Assam?
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So I'll follow up on that, David, and get back to you with the definitive answer, but I would expect it to function.
Michael, Victor here. Another question one of our partners, or a few of them, are asking is there something like a Soonr for Dummies book that would be useful for clients?
Not yet. I've been basically this is my baby here. So this is under we started this this is both the front end and the back end. So this is how we manage all of our support tickets. So this has been up since July, and we're constantly refining and adding and so on. So at this point in time, and what I've really been focusing on for the last 6 months is getting the core content up there. So I've been putting up sort of all, like for instance, the share one that I put in there. So the next phase of this project is going to be to put all of these together and then cross-reference them and link them together. And then what we'll have is sort of a getting started guide, and then a guides and tutorials where it'll go through step by step and then reference other parts that give more information. So at this point, we don't have anything like that. We used to have a bit of a manual, if you will, but we found that just because we tend to make updates and improvements to the product so often, that we were just in this continual cycle of trying to keep the documentation updated. So we've done a bit of a change in direction, and we'll be doing all of our support and documentation through our support website. So keep an eye on that. We'll be constantly working on that and constantly improving that.
Yeah, so definitely that's the best avenue, guys, to look at the knowledge base and all of the articles on there. And we're also going to be adding some video tutorials over the next few months as well. So it's going to be really comprehensive. But to answer your question specifically, Victor, there is kind of a document that I can share with you, which is kind of like really basic steps, really basic, how to get your first customer up and running and using the service. But it doesn't go into the absolute level of detail and the absolute level of, knowledge that's going to be on the knowledge base. So I would always say to any partner to use the support site that Michael's going through as the single source of information. But what I will do is I'll send you a copy of the kind of first hour using guide for your reference and for your partners, which will just basically do the absolute basic steps, and then use that in conjunction with the knowledge base until that document becomes end of life and it's fully replaced by the support site.
All right. Okay. Great. Thanks.
No problem.
All right. I think we're just have to. Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, Michael. A common question that people do ask is in relation to just sharing a particular folder that they may want to put Soonr onto their server. And for example, they may have sales guys out on the road, so it might be just the quotations folders, just to run through that aspect of it, just one particular folder, be it on an on-premise server or it may be on a virtual desktop environment.
Okay, so this is something that's already synced to Soonr that you want to share with people that are members within the Soonr team. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so just onto projects, find... let's go on to support and test files, and let's say we want to share just this one this one folder. Just go on to shares, and we say we want to share this with the marketing group, and we want to give them modify access. Share folder, that's it. And we can see now that they've got access just to this folder as opposed to the whole project like the guy above. And we can also see there's 3 members within that group. Obviously, we could also do it with each of the individual members, but it's probably easier to manage it via groups when you've got more than a handful. And
just to let everyone know, Michael, then, that if they have the Soonr client on their local desktop and or on their actual Android, that on the Soonr workplace locally, that they will only see that actual folder and it will synchronize. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, if they went onto this, they would see the support project, but they wouldn't see this document file. And if I was to create another folder in here, they wouldn't see that one either. They would only see the one that I've actually given them access to, this test files one.
Okay. So on the Soonr workplace, i.e. locally, because I suppose a lot of the guys would be working on the actual Soonr workplace as opposed to the Soonr Online also. All the functionalities are there just to highlight to everyone that they can right-click on each folder. If you were to go back there, Michael, just to the actual... So again, in the same way, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can't share from here. So the way to do it, if you want to do it through here, is just go open Soonr here. That'll take you directly to the folder we're looking at, and then shares.
Perfect. So in the example of Joe Blogs Limited, whereby they had 10 employees and there was 4 of them out on the road on a regular basis, they could actually get assigned, just they would only actually be able to see the sales or the quotations folder, and everyone else would be able to have a number of other folders with password permissions assigned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's granular. You can set it up in a variety of ways. So we could either just go and create a project for sales. So we could say all the sales stuff goes in here, and we give them full access to that whole project. Or we can say, actually, we want to have it in a subfolder down here and only give them access to that, in which case, when they came into the Rinsler project, they would see just medical training, and then they would see just sterilization room, but then they'd see everything within that.
And can you just confirm with everyone as well, Michael, just in relation to Soonr Pro and Soonr Enterprise, I suppose the key differences there when you're talking about assigning certain projects and certain folders to certain members or people within a company or organization.
Sorry, I lost you there.
So basically, with the Soonr Pro edition, as opposed to Soonr Enterprise, which has Active Directory integration, that you can do this, that you can assign certain users and groups to only see and be able to access certain folders.
Oh, yeah. That aspect of functionality is exactly the same. The differences between Pro and Enterprise, in a nutshell, is Active Directory integration, reporting, the manage projects and manage devices and manage projects tabs. There's the Salesforce integration as well, which is not showing up here for some reason, and the policies. That's pretty much it.
Okay. No, that's a key question that does be asked from time to time, is in relation to folders on the Soonr Pro that only certain users will be allowed to access it once they're given the rights to do so.
Yeah, I would say just have a fiddle with it, because this is really sort of, I think this is key for everybody. I think everybody on this call, as well as pretty much everybody that deals with the Soonr service, the sharing and how the permissions work is really sort of a key aspect. So I'd suggest having a read through this shares document, in particular these notes, and getting your head around how it works. It's a little bit different to the way like Microsoft does it, for instance. So it doesn't work as many people might expect from working with other products. And it's kind of really key to get your head around how that works, so that you can set up your folder structure in a way that really helps you minimizing administration. But it's granular. You can set it on levels. The only things to be aware of is that you can't reduce the level of permissions as you can go down. You can only increase them, and you can't restrict something once you're in. You can only grant access. You can't restrict access, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, that's perfect. So
sorry, I got a question from Niall on the chat. Is there a way to limit what is actually synchronized? Is blah, 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 blah. Yes, indeed. Sorry, we never got a chance to get onto that. Partially my fault, because I forgot that I should have been doing this on a Windows machine today. So when we go into our Soonr preferences, and we didn't have a look at this at all already. General's pretty general, straightforward. We can restrict the remote access there. On the Workplace Sync tab, this is where we can specify which projects are synced to our device. So we've got a few other options here, but sort of the real key here is we can decide which projects are synced. So I can say, I want to sync this project, and I can go full sync. You might have noticed I had the selective sync option there as well. And additionally, I have it in here. So I can come into, it's going to Rinsler project. I can go into selective sync, and then I can amend what is synced within it. So I can say, actually, I don't need those two subfolders or that one synced. And when I do that, you'll see this now changes to selective sync. So this is one to really watch out for when you're supporting your clients, is that you will get the question, oh, John has the project. John has this folder, and I don't have this folder. Check that they haven't done the selective sync, and that they've synced fully the folder, or they've chosen that folder that they need. So we can say which folders and which projects we want synced to our device. Does that answer your question, Niall?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. And just to point out one other thing, which is only available to, there's a few people that are dropping off now, I think, but thanks for coming, guys, if you need to go. I'll just carry on talking until somebody tells me to stop. Just one other thing to point out here. Administrators, Pro or Enterprise, but administrators will have a folder sync tab, and that'll allow you to sync to outside of your Soonr Workplace folder. So only administrators can do this. And you can either create a project from a local folder, so you can take this folder on your desktop called XYZ, and you can create a project from it, or the other way around, where you can say, oh, take this project called whatever, and do a full sync onto my desktop, for instance. So just to make you aware that that's available. Stephen, yes, data is encrypted in all instances. So one other thing to point out here, which is going to be very useful for you guys when you're setting up new teams or when you're setting up new members in a team, is what it's new to the 5.0 agent, so you need to make sure you're on that, is what we call Project Loader. And what that's going to do is, let me see if I've got that. No, I don't seem to have that. So what, I'm on my PC, it's only available, I'm on my Mac, it's only available on PC. What that's going to allow us to do is you're going to allow, when you go on to sync a project, you on the PC version and on 5.1 when that's released for Mac, we'll be adding it there too. You'll have an option here called Project Loader. And that'll allow you to point to a local copy of the file. So rather than having to download everything from the service, from the cloud as it were, you can point to the local copy of the files, let's say on the file server or an external hard drive, whatever it might be. It'll copy all of those across from the, well, firstly it'll match them with the server and see are these exact copies. Anything that's an exact copy, it'll copy from the local source, and then it'll download the remaining files from the server to get everything in sync. So especially if you've got a lot of content for new users and so on, you can save a massive amount of time and bandwidth by using that feature. Dara, there is no LAN sync yet. That is something that we are working on at the moment. We expect to release that, I will say, in 2015 to not set the expectation too high. Hopefully towards spring, summer, probably summer more realistically, but it's still relatively early days of the development, so there might be unexpected road bumps. But yes, it's something that we're working on. It's something that is a real key one that we're trying to achieve at the moment, because there's a lot of people wanting that. When you say LAN sync, I'm assuming that we're syncing between the machines via the LAN and these files rather than going up to the Soonr servers and back down.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, yeah.
Michael, just one other thing there. I was talking to Sam the other day in relation to the new plugin for Outlook. Mm-hmm. And just to let everyone know what's ahead in terms of the new mobile app, and again for the new version of Soonr that will have the plugin onto your Microsoft Outlook client.
Sure. Yeah, look, sorry again that I forgot about the Windows request, otherwise I could have given you a quick little preview of that. With the Outlook plugin, in fairness, it's really straightforward. In Outlook, you'll be able to install an Outlook plugin, and then you'll get a little extra menu in your ribbon, and that'll allow you to either attach a file from Soonr, and what it'll do is it'll just send basically a link, a team link or a public link, so you'll have two options. You'll either be able to attach an existing file, so it'll link to an existing file in the Soonr service, or it'll give you the option to upload a file to the Soonr service and then attach the link. So it'll just, rather than actually send it as an attachment, it'll just send you a link so that people can access it via the Soonr Workplace.
Brilliant. So it's a fantastic alternative to SharePoint in essence, really, and a lot more user friendly.
Yeah, very, very user friendly. I mean, it's how do I say this in a more euphemistic manner? It's idiot proof, basically. It's very, very straightforward. I couldn't imagine anybody going wrong with it. I'm gonna try and bring up my. Hopefully this will work. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go into this is our new. What's going to be called Soonr Go. So it's a replacement for our Soonr Workplace mobile app 4.0. 3.9. So we're rebranding it. It's a complete overhaul. Basically it's almost a different product. So if you're familiar with the previous versions, Colin is not available for Android yet. It will be in due course. We're working on the Android version, but the iOS version will come out first. We need to do a whole redevelopment of the backend. So I won't go into too much detail, but it required a big change on the backend to make it function. So it's a little bit delayed on the Android. If you're familiar with the previous version, sorry, just while I'm on Colin there, you said or via NAS. I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. Is that in regards to the LAN sync? Okay, cool. So yeah, sorry. If you're familiar with the old version of the app, you could only have it associated with one account. The first nice thing about the new version of the app is we can have multiple accounts. So I'll come into this Rinzler test, which is the same one that we've been working on.
Hi guys, I just have to drop off now, but thanks very much for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. So once we're in, the first thing we're going to get is our dashboard. This is very similar to what we're seeing online, the same sort of options running across the top as we had online. Our favorites, our recents, our locked, our links. We can see it's syncing down here. If I tap on that, it's going to give me a live update of exactly what's happening. Over here, I've got all my projects. So if I'm online, I can just navigate, go into all my projects. Below that, I've got my on-device views. These are files that we've synced to our device. And then below that, you'll have all of your synced ones lined up here for quick access. So I'll go onto a project. Let's go onto that Rinzler test again, Rinzler project again. And so we've got our different views from up here. We've got our list view and our thumbnail view, which gives us a nice little preview of the file. We've also got our sort. Button. So we can sort in various ways. The one just above it here is our little more information tab. So we can sync this to our device from here. We can add comments. We can. That's already. Okay, we can mark it as a favorite, delete it, and rename it down at the bottom. This little one is a batch selection. Again, this is new for our soon to go. So we can do multiple actions. Previously, you had to be kind of in the correct location and so on to do an ad. Now we can the ad's always available no matter what screen you're on, and we can just add in various, either an Office document or a note, or use the camera, new folders, new projects, that sort of thing. We can do annotation directly on the app. So, sorry, this is a little bit of an outdated version as well, so it's a little buggy. This is my personal iPad that I'm on, so we can do annotation. I'll just discard those changes. We can also edit our Microsoft Office documents directly within the app, which is really useful. Again, I hope this works because I've had problems with this version of it before and haven't updated. You'll have to take my word for it, or if you just run the current version of the app, you'll get a good experience of how you can do the. Sorry, I didn't tap that. That makes sense. There we go. Install. And then if I come back onto my Soonr Workplace Online, I think that was on my dashboard favorites, wasn't it? Where did I get that one from? Oh, that was the Rinzler project, that's right. And then those changes should be showing up there, but are not yet. Yeah, sorry, as I said, it's a little bit of an outdated version, so it's still a little bit buggy. That's about a month or so old. We can tap on the name in here. Let me actually just go a few layers down so that actually, so we just tap on the name over here and see the path. Just go back to whichever level we want. Trying to remember what else I can actually show you here. Is of course all that device approval and the remote wipe will function on this version of the app. They won't work with previous versions.
That's fine, Michael. I think everyone pretty much gets the idea anyway. I think we should wrap up, guys. If there's anyone else that has any other questions, by all means, shout now, and we'll answer them as quickly as we possibly can.
Doesn't seem like it.
No, everyone okay? Okay, brilliant. I'd just like to thank Michael and Assam, especially Michael, for doing the presentation today, which was very insightful, to be fair, in relation to the Soonr product. If anyone has any questions, just send me an email directly, david.waldron@cloudstrong.ie, and I'll get back to you with answers. I'll liaise with Michael from Soonr.
Great stuff, yep.
Okay. Michael,
thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much for your time. Everyone, thanks very much for your time. Any questions, Michael? Just send me an email. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.